All right, I'm going to go over a couple of problems to help you get through the two IXL topics I've assigned for you to cover lesson 9.6. And just a little before we get started with some of these. 9.6 is talking about systems of equations, which means that we're going to be talking about two lines for the same problem. And there's going to be different ways we're going to answer these, and you'll see the farther along we get how this goes. But in this first section, they're going to give you two equations, and I'm just making these up. Y equals 3x minus 2, and y equals x plus 1. And when it says to solve this by graphing, we're going to take both of these equations that I just picked out and put them on the same graph. So let's talk about this one first. 3x minus 2. If you remember from before, when we talked about slope-intercept form, this number, the 3, is your slope, and the negative 2 is your y-intercept. And if you recall, we started with the y-intercept first, so I'm going to go down on the y-axis to negative 2 and put my first point. And then it says my slope is 3. And if you remember from before, I said it's also okay to write your slope as a fraction, which would mean 3 over 1. That means I go up 3. 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. 1. Why does it keep doing that? 1, 2, 3 over 1. So there are my points. And if I get this line, that's not bad. So there's one line. And like I said, we're going to put both of these lines on the same graph. So let's do the same thing for this. My y-intercept is positive 1. So I'm going to go up to positive 1. And now for the slope, well, I've got no number here in front of the x. And if you remember, if there's no number there, it's like there's that imaginary 1 there, which would mean my slope is 1 over 1. So I would go up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. And I would have a line that looks something like that. Now, this is what normally would happen. You put two lines on a graph and they end up crossing somewhere. And this is going to be the solution to the problem. So when it says solve the system of equations, it's asking you to find the point where the lines cross. Okay, and to do that, I need to say what the point is, right? My coordinate, x, comma, y. And it's a little difficult to see on here. It looks like it's over 2 and up 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Okay. we'll be able to be more accurate with these when we do them on IXL because it gives you a graph and lets you graph things. So there's just kind of a quick example of a problem. Now, let's go back to this because this is one of the topics on IXL that you're going to have to do. And this one's actually kind of an easier one. It says, is 1,7 a solution to the system of equations? And it's just a yes or no answer, okay, like they got here, yes or no. I'm going to take those numbers, the 1 and the 7, and I'm going to plug them into each equation. So I'm going to take these and write them separately. Y equals 2x plus 5, and y equals, taking this one now, x plus 3. Now, we're going back to this point, 1 comma 7. The 1 is my x value. The 7 is my y value. Now, back to the equation. I just said my x value was 1. Somebody say 2 times 1 plus 5 equals, and my y value I just said was 7. So we're going to see if this is true. I have 7 equals 2 times 1 is 2 plus 5. So that looks okay. 7 does equal 7. Now we're going to go to the other one. What's my y value? 7 equals, my x value is 1. 7 equals 1 plus 3 is 4. Well, I know that's no good. Okay, doesn't work for that one. So because only one of them worked and one didn't, the answer to this question is no. Okay, 1,7 is not a solution. All right, I'm going to go into IXL now and do a couple others. So here we go. Maybe IXL. Here we go. So this is actually a question right in IXL. Is 110 a solution? And remember, 1 is my I don't know why it's not letting me write over there. 110. 1 is my x value. 10 is my y value. And I'm going to start with my first problem and say y equals 9x plus 1. And then I'm going to take my second one, y equals x plus 9. Again, we're going to get our x and y values from right here and just plug them in. So my y value is 10 equals 9 times x value is 1 plus 1. 10 equals 9 times 1 is 9 plus 1. That one looks good. 10 equals 10. Let's try the next one. My y value is 10 equals my x value is 1. Look at that. 10 equals 10. All right, so because both of them work out, my answer is yes. I thought it would let me click on there, but it's not. Okay. Anyway, let's go back to one of these graphing problems now. So, couple of things. Oh, okay. Couple of things. Let's do this first one. Y equals negative 2x minus 2. So I know my slope comes from right here, negative 2, and I can write it over 1. And my y-intercept is negative 2. So I'm using this equation right now, so I'm going to make sure I click on that. And I'm going to put my first point on the graph, and we always start with the y-intercept. The y-intercept is at negative 2, so I just put a point at negative 2. And now I'm going to count my slope, right? I'm going to count my slope of negative 2 over 1. Negative 2 over 1 means I go down 2, right 1. Down 2, right 1. So I'm going to go back to my point, and I'm going to go down 2. Oops. Down 2. Why is it doing that? Starts at negative 2. Down 2, right 1. That's not letting me do that. This worked out just fine earlier. Starts at negative 2. Negative 2. And then I'm going to go down 2, right 1. Sure, now it's going to... Hey, there, finally. I started with my slope of negative 2, and I went down 2, right 1 to get my next point. And IXL will put that line right on there for you. Sheesh. Let's see if I can get this one a little bit easier. So the second one, y equals negative 3x minus 3. Again, my slope is negative 3, and I can put it over 1. My y-intercept is negative 3. I start with my y-intercept of negative 3. I put it at negative 4. It's supposed to be negative 3. There it is. And now negative 3 for my slope. Negative 3 for my slope means I go down 3, right 1. Down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1. And there we go. I went down 3 to the right 1. Now if we look at this graph very carefully, I can see that right here is where those lines cross. And they cross exactly at that point. And now remember, to answer this, I have to say what that point is. And that point point is -1, 0. Phew, got it right. Okay, now I'm just going to do this one a little quickly for you. Starting with the top one, y-intercept is -2. -2. Slope, there's no number in front of that x, so it's a +1, up 1 over 1. So there we go. I started at -2. I went up 1, right 1 to get my next point, and it put that line on there automatically for me. Now I'm going to click on the next line, -x plus 6. Well, I've got to start at 6. There's my point, up at +6 on the y-axis. -x, -x. Remember, there's an imaginary 1 there. So my slope, -1 over 1. Which means I go down 1, right 1. So from my 6, I'm going to go down 1, right 1. There we go. Puts the line on there. I'm looking for that point. To get to that point, I had to go over 4. Whoopsie. Don't want to do that. I had to go over. God dang it. I had to go over 4, up 2. Over 4 in the positive direction, up +2 in the other direction. I thought I put 4, 2 in. Anyway. So, there's how to use IXL to graph the lines for you. I got to show you one other thing with these when it comes to graphing. If I put this line and this line on there, that is my solution. That's the answer. If this was at -1, my answer would be -1, 0. Now, if you think about what else can happen when I graph two lines, maybe they don't intersect. Maybe I have parallel lines. Well, if they're parallel, they're never going to cross, and you're never going to have that point. I'm not sure if you're going to see this on IXL, but you will see this later on. If you graph your two lines and they end up to be parallel, the answer to these types of problems are no solution. And the reason that it's no solution is because you have parallel lines. No solution. And there's only one other option that can happen, right? So far we've said my lines can cross there and I've got an answer. My lines could be parallel, so that means I have no solutions, parallel lines. Or maybe I graph one line and then I graph the next line, and there are two lines that are right on top of each other. So really, they intersect there, they intersect there, they intersect there, there. They're going to intersect everywhere because they're right on top of each other. So if you get two lines that actually are the same line, but two lines in the graph, and they're the exact same line, one on top of the other, what you would write for those is that you have infinite solutions. I don't know if they'll ask you to write identity, infinite solutions, all real numbers. But in class, when we answer these and you actually write things down, you'll say infinite solutions. You can use the infinity sign. But I'm not sure. I don't think you'll see that on IXL, but just something to keep in mind for later on. I hope that helps. The important things to remember what to do. Is it a solution? Yes or no? You just plug the numbers in for x and y and make sure that both of them work. And then graphing. Make sure when you're graphing you start with the y-intercept first. Put that point where it goes. And then count your slope. Remember counting slopes. If I have a positive slope, I go up and right. If I have a negative slope, I go down and I go right. Well, I hope that helps. That was my first time kind of working in IXL on my iPad and trying to record all this, so hopefully I'll get a little bit better at that. But like I said, I hope this helps. Hope you get through that IXL assignment. All right.